everybody, to Championship Week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods and the ACC on ESPN. Second game of the day here in Greensboro. Second round action of the ACC Tournament. The number 12 seed, the Deacons of Wake Forest, taking on the 5th seeded Pittsburgh Panthers, playing in their first ACC Tournament game. First year in the league for Pittsburgh, one of the 3 newcomers from the Big East, along with Syracuse, which will play tomorrow. And this Wake Forest team has already dispatched the other newcomer from the Big East, as Wake handled Notre Dame yesterday, 81-69, to set up this matchup with Pittsburgh. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Greensboro. Sean McDonough and Jay Billis, delighted to have you with us. In our first game, a dramatic buzzer beater. Florida State got a much-needed win with an eye toward the NCAA tournament. They're still on the bubble. Most people believe Pitt is into the field with 23 wins, but it's not certainly for sure, and another win today wouldn't hurt.
Well, it would hurt if they lost. I agree with you. I think they're in, but why leave it in the committee's hands when you can get a win and move on and play North Carolina and perhaps get another win that seals the deal and gets you an even better seed. Pittsburgh's a good basketball team, but it's a team that's going to have to exert itself on the glass where they've got an advantage. They manhandled Wake Forest in the last game when they met.
Wake Forest, a very solid win yesterday over Notre Dame, and job one today for the Deacons, dealing with that man, Lamar Patterson.
Well, Lamar Patterson, second team all ACC, and a guy that operates very well off ball screens because he is an excellent passer. One of the best passing big men in the country. Sometimes he'll get a ball screen slip, then another ball screen. He's a complete player. He's their best shooter, averages 18 points a game. The last time that Wake Forest had to guard him, he had 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists in that game. He's going to be a primary focus of the Wake Forest defense.
Wake Forest, impressive victory yesterday over Notre Dame. They really controlled that game through most of it, and particularly outstanding Karan Williams and Devin Thomas.
And Karan Williams, a guy that Pittsburgh is familiar with because they played against him when he was at Robert Morris, and an outstanding shooter, guy you have to make put it on the deck. And if you noticed all these shots, nobody made Karan Williams dribble in this game. He had 25 points. He knocked down open 3 after open 3. If you don't make him put it on the deck, it's going to be target practice. And Devin Thomas is a big guy that can operate in the low post. He can face up, he can put it on the deck and spin. He's an excellent rebounder, the 4th leading rebounder in the league, and you can run offense through Devin Thomas. He had 19 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists against Notre Dame. Very efficient in the ballgame. He's going to have to be just as efficient against a better defensive team in Pittsburgh.
Well, Wake Forest did a terrific job yesterday on the boards against Notre Dame. They were plus 10 for the game, but it's been a weakness for them all year long. The only team worse in the ACC in rebounding margin is Boston College. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh second in the ACC in rebounding margin, behind only Virginia. The one-on-one brought to you by Mazda. Well, Pittsburgh will try to assert its edge on the glass against the Wake Forest team that extended its season with its 17th win yesterday. Cody Miller McIntyre runs the show. Williams has been their best player lately. Pittsburgh at 23-8, 11-7, all alone in 5th place in the ACC standings in the regular season. Cameron Wright, James Robinson in the starting backcourt for Jamie Dixon. Jamie Lucky, the lead official, with Les Jones and Sean Hull. Pittsburgh in white, and the tip was controlled by Talib Zana. James Robinson, sophomore point guard.
Looks like a little 1-2-2 right now for Wake Forest. They're bumping and communicating and trying to match up out of it.
Michael Young's shot off the mark. Pittsburgh will keep it out of bounds.
This is not a great shooting Pittsburgh team. They're an excellent passing team, so they get really good shots. But the engine that makes them go is Lamar Patterson. They get it into his hands. They set screens, ball screens for him, and let him make decisions. They stick with this 1-2-2. That middle is open, and they're trying to screen it.
Patterson from the free throw line. Talib Zana up and in for the first bucket of the ball game.
Zana, one of the best offensive rebounders, not only in the ACC, but in the country. Gets 3 offensive rebounds per game. And right away the weakness for Wake Forest exposed in the first play as they get an offensive rebound bucket.
I know William Adalamoto passed it off to Noah McIntyre. And now Williams. He showed yesterday he can score inside and out of bounds with 10 to shoot for Wake Forest. Jamie Dixon in his 11th season at Pittsburgh. They won it all at Madison Square Garden. Did the Panthers in the Big East Tournament in 2008 under his direction. Won 2 Big East regular season titles under Jamie Dixon. Off shot and a shot clock violation as the attempt by Cody Miller-McIntyre didn't hit the rim. Jeff Bzdelik, win yesterday, got him at least one more game as Wake Forest coach, but still all kinds of speculation that this might be the end whenever their season ends. 4 years, 51-75 the record. They did win their first ACC tournament game yesterday since 2007 with that win over Notre Dame.
1-2-2 three-quarter court pressure back in a half-court 1-2-2. Pittsburgh does a good job of screening against the zone. They rotate guys into the middle of it. There's a screen against it, passing out of it, and you always have to have 2 guys opposite so you can distort it.
Michael Young up and underneath the basket. Avoided the attempted block by Devin Thomas. And Pitt off to a good start in its first ACC tournament game.
Cameron Wright, who is the best perimeter defender for Pittsburgh, is on Williams right now, and he is not going to leave him.
Thomas, strong move and the finish.
Devin Thomas was not only terrific against Notre Dame, he was terrific against Notre Dame in both the games that Wake Forest played against the Irish, but you throw it inside against a little bigger team, probably a better team defensively in the post, and he just took on all comers.
He had 19 and 10 yesterday. He had a 21-point game in the regular season against Notre Dame when he made 10 out of 11 from the floor. Patterson. We visited with Jamie Dixon the other night. He said you could really see the last few days that hand and wrist feeling a lot better for Lamar Patterson. His shooting better, and he should be back to very good form in this championship. They come to double Thomas. Tenacious defense by Pitt. Ripped away by Zana. And underneath for the layup for Cameron Wright. Pittsburgh ready to go right from the opening tip, and 3 minutes in they lead by a touchdown.
Pittsburgh off to a great start, and one of the guys they need to deal with is Devin Thomas, who when he gets the ball in the low post can be a facilitator. He can attack the basket, and they come immediately with the double, and they get him on the block, and pretty soon they force him out in front of the Pittsburgh bench. And that was a difference in space of about 15-20 feet from where he caught it, where he wound up with the ball. Referee's telling the players, knock it off, let's play ball. Pittsburgh has gotten off to a great start. Their defense has been solid. Haven't let Karan Williams get an open shot. And they've made it awfully difficult on Devin Thomas on the time he got it in the low post.
When we talk about the resume, Jay, they don't have a lot of wins that dazzle you. They beat just about everybody they should have defeated. They went 7-2 on the road in ACC games. That's impressive in a conference like this to win 7 out of 9 away from home.
Yeah, what was interesting is, we've known for so long with Pittsburgh how tough they are at home at the Pete, and they lost home games this year and were better on the road actually than at home, which is unusual for Pittsburgh.
They won 10 games away from the Peterson Event Center, 3 games at neutral sites, 7 on the road. Shot from the corner wouldn't go for Travis Mackay. The ball was out of bounds.
Pittsburgh does such a good job of taking things away. They are very good. They scout, and their players take those scouting reports to heart. They drill things, and their players execute it. And they're making it difficult for Wake Forest to get what they want.
Oh, Devin Thomas went quickly to the bucket. He was sent back, I believe, by Patterson.
Well, Patterson's shot fake is so good.
Zana, senior. Patterson, also a senior. And Zana tips it in. And certainly, Jay, the fact they've had a lot of seniors over the years. Players get better at Pitt as they go. A big reason why they've had remarkable consistency. Williams a three. For Pittsburgh, this is the 12th time in the last 13 years they've won at least 20 overall games and at least 10 in their conference. And an illegal screen. Michael Young called for the foul. His first. And immediate timeout with Pitt leading by 6.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Dick's Sporting Goods. Every season starts at Dick's. And Mazda. Conviction, creativity, courage. This is the Mazda way.
Pittsburgh leading 11-5 at our first media timeout. The ACC Tournament, a staple of championship week, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, and a good start for Pitt star Lamar Patterson.
Patterson knocked down an open three. Got a little screen from Talib Zana there against the 1-2-2, knocks it down, then off the fake handoff. Devin Thomas drives to the basket. Patterson, not known as a shot blocker, but he is a good defender. Wipes that thing away. And you're looking at one of the most versatile players in the country. He can shoot it from the perimeter, an excellent passer, one of the best passing forwards in the country. And here's another good passer. Devin Thomas had 5 assists in yesterday's game against Notre Dame, and a guy you can play through in the post. He's sure-handed, doesn't turn it over all that much.
Ooh, another block, this one by Zana to deny Cody Miller-McIntyre, the sophomore guard. Miles Overton is in off the bench for Wake Forest, a freshman, number 20. He had a couple of threes to help key a run against Notre Dame yesterday. Here's Overton.
How active is Pittsburgh with their help side defense in their hands?
Josh Newkirk lays it in. Freshman. When they knew they were going to the ACC, they started recruiting in this part of the country, and he's the first recruit from this area to go to Pitt. He's from Raleigh.
He's the quickest player on the team. He's got another gear. Showed it in transition there, and Wake Forest turns the ball over. They haven't gotten really more than 1 or 2 good shots. Got an open three from Williams. And then a drive to the basket from Devin Thomas. That's really about it.
Zana got it back. Jamel Artis is in for Pitt, number 1. Boy, he comes off to Patterson all by himself. Used a little fake. Trying to get the timing of Devin Thomas off. 15-5. Pittsburgh, 5.5 minutes in.
Everything for Pittsburgh has been fairly easy. Very little for Wake Forest has been easy.
Overton's the son of Doug Overton, former LaSalle star and NBA player.
Well, the plan for Karan Williams, who had 25 points against Notre Dame, is make him put it on the floor. If you turn him into a driver, there's only so much that he can do to hurt you. You let him get open threes where he can get catch and shoot threes, he can have a big night on you.
Best game as a Demon Deacon in his only year at Wake Forest. He graduated from Robert Morris and had a year of eligibility left, so he came to Wake Forest and had an excellent year, particularly down the stretch. Overton, they're aware that he's a good three-point shooter, so he was charged by Cameron Wright, and then Wright committed a foul closer to the bucket. His first. 4 team fouls on Pitt. Wake has not been called for a foul yet.
In the game against Notre Dame for Miles Overton, that would have been a 3. Instead, Pitt made him put it on the floor. They wound up fouling him. But instead of an open 3, they're trying to make him take tough contested 2s.
Barely grazed the front rim with that one. Overton played 11 minutes yesterday. They had 8 points, including those 2 big threes, within a minute of each other during a key run into the second half.
Wonder a little bit with Wake Forest how much gas they have in the tank. Well, 1-2-2, 3/4 court pressure just to slow the advance a little bit, and back into the 1-2-2. That middle is wide open.
I think that would be an advantage for Pittsburgh in this game. They had yesterday off with a single bye. Wake Forest had to play. Nice cut, nice pass. Zana to Newkirk.
I don't know how much zone you can play against Pittsburgh. They're a good cutting team, good passing team. They're not a good shooting team. They can make open shots, but they're not a team that's going to absolutely drill shot after shot.
Tyler Kavanaugh showing his range. The sophomore from DeWitt, New York, just outside Syracuse. Buries the 3. He spent a lot of time last summer working out at the Syracuse basketball facility. Matter of fact, he did a nice job with that work. He managed to stay about the same weight but reduced his body fat. This led to a good sophomore season for Kavanaugh. Madison Jones is in for the Demon Deacons, number 1. Was their starting guard for much of the year, now comes off the bench. Not much of a scorer, but a distributor of the basketball. Chris Jones on the court for Pitt, number 12.
Madison Jones with a foul. Newkirk cut to the ball, and he fouled him on his way.
First team foul against Wake Forest. Zana couldn't score with a line drive from the elbow. Overton the rebound. Kavanaugh in the lane to Jones. He couldn't handle it. Artis got it back for Pitt. The Panthers lead by 8. 12.5 to go in the first half.
Well, Jones made a good cut. Just because you make a good cut doesn't mean you have to get the ball. Skip pass was probably the right choice for Kavanaugh there. And Kavanaugh had some turnover issues against Notre Dame. I think he coughed it up 5 times in that ball game.
You are correct, sir.
He's a good shooter. Tyler Kavanaugh, when he faces up, he can step away and knock down an open shot. Had a terrific ball game against Duke and that win that Wake Forest had over the Blue Devils.
It was the highlight of their season, win in their regular season home finale over number 4 Duke. They beat Duke, North Carolina, and NC State at home this year. They had a number of games that got away. You'd expect them to win at home. Particularly upsetting to them, home losses to Boston College, Georgia Tech, and Florida State. One point of the year, Wake Forest was 14-6 overall and 4-3 in the league. Had a tough loss to Georgia Tech. Cody Miller-McIntyre turned an ankle in that game and wound up being part of a 7-game losing streak. Overton, boy, it's like a hot potato right now. He couldn't squeeze it. Thomas couldn't handle the pass. Overton was calling for it. Wound up taking a very difficult 3 with Artis guarding.
Well, that was a really good closeout by Artis. He forced that tough shot. And a lot of teams, that would have been an easy shot. And instead, it was a contested one, a challenge jump shot.
But they just look sharp, don't they? Nice ball movement there on offense, and James Robinson connected.
You know, their alignments are so good. They move the ball and move themselves, but against that zone, they've screened it, and then they've overloaded it on the opposite side. So a guy has to make a choice. They get to where there's one man guarding 2, and that's what you want against the zone.
Good rebound in traffic by Derek Randall, the transfer from Rutgers. Devin Thomas is going to be called for that foul as he hit Cameron Wright near the goal.
Well, Talib Zana, one of the best running big guys in the country. He changes ends as well as any center you're going to find. He's also an outstanding rebounder, 2nd in the league in rebounding. And every once in a while he can block a shot and find an open teammate. Good start for Talib Zana and the Pitt Panthers.
In Memphis, Tennessee, American Athletic Conference, Houston facing SMU. Houston with a 3-point lead, and Tayshaun Thomas just drives in, uses the glass, kisses it down, and Houston knocks off the 25th ranked SMU Mustangs. Meanwhile, Texas A&M and Missouri in the SEC all tied up at 68 apiece. You can catch this game on your Watch ESPN app. We, of course, will update you throughout. Sean and Jay, back to you.
All right, John, thank you. Among those in attendance, Hubert Davis, Walt Williams, 2 outstanding players during their time in the ACC. Of course, Hubert on the coaching staff now at the University of North Carolina. They're off until tomorrow's quarterfinals as one of the top 4 seeds. This is 2nd round action at the ACC tournament, and Pittsburgh a very solid start in their first ACC tournament game, leading Wake Forest by 10 points and a chance to add to it, as Cameron Wright will go to the free throw line.
I'm not a lip reader, Sean, but I've got a pretty good idea that Hubert Davis and Walt Williams were not talking about passing.
Oh, boy, oh, boy. Well, you wrote a book about toughness, so just about anything that doesn't seem to make sense is possible. Cameron Wright, honored on the court before the game just moments ago. He is the ACC Basketball Scholar Athlete of the Year, outstanding student in business and marketing at Pittsburgh. That award named for the late Skip Prosser. 6 years the coach at Wake Forest, and just a wonderful guy. And that's a great honor. A lot of basketball players in this league when you have 15 teams, and Cameron Wright recognized for his great work in the classroom.
Pittsburgh really does a good job of contesting the catch you're trying to make. They try to extend the catch. They don't really get out in passing lanes all that much. They protect the basket more, but that's a tough shot by Kavanaugh. You're going away from the basket. They're doing a good job between staying between their man and the basket, making it tough on them.
Shot deflected, and it rolls out of bounds. Good block by Andre Washington, who's out there for Wake. Let's quickly send you back to John Saunders.
Well, Sean and Jay will get you back there in a moment, but we want to take a look at a game that's just now ended regulation, tied at 68 apiece, so headed to overtime. Brad Nessler and Jimmy Dykes with a call there. Let's take a listen in.
And we don't give ourselves a chance for an offensive rebound. They go almost like a 1-4 flat action, and Clarkson right there get the ball up on the rim, although he's covered up, and allow the offensive rebounding by Jonathan Williams III to come into play and Ross to come into play, and Billy Kennedy and his guys say we live another 5 more minutes.
At least. Well, the thought there, obviously.
All right, so that one headed to overtime. We'll follow that, let you know, perhaps go out there for a moment. Right now, let's go back to Sean and Jay.
And while we were looking in, Cody Miller-McIntyre scored on the layup for Wake. Cameron Wright couldn't answer for Pittsburgh as his layup rolled off. Miller-McIntyre again.
Pittsburgh got a couple really good shots. They just couldn't get it to go, and Wake Forest hasn't been able to capitalize.
Travis Mackay, the miss. He's had a quiet 2 days. Goaltending called on Andre Washington, the 7-footer from Roanoke.
There's the running ability of Talib Zana. He really gets down the floor quickly and puts a lot of pressure on opposing big guys. And every once in a while, he's going to get an easy basket as a result. And they call it an easy basket, but you got to do something really hard to get it.
Help Wake if they could get Travis Mackay going. At 4 points yesterday, he averaged more than 11. He's 0 for 3 today. Another strong drive by Cody Miller-McIntyre.
Cody Miller-McIntyre is a really good player. I think he's the best player on this Wake Forest team, but he was injured a little bit earlier in the year. I think it was against Georgia Tech right before they played at Cameron Indoor Stadium. He didn't play in that game, and I don't think he's been the same since. He's been good. He's had really good moments, but he hasn't been the same.
Jeff Bisdella could agree with you. Talib Zana's pass a little too hot to handle underneath. He thought that was the turning point of the season. He said sometimes when you look back at your year, it can come down to one play or one little sequence. And they had a situation in their game against Georgia Tech. I mentioned earlier in the year they were 4-4 at that time in the league, 14-7 overall. They turned it over late in the half. Georgia Tech threw in a long shot. Miller-McIntyre turned his ankle in that sequence. He wasn't the same for quite a while. They wound up losing 7 games in a row.
His shooting, he's not shot the ball well. I think he's under 30% from 3 on the season. He still had some good moments. I still think he's their best player. He just hasn't played his best.
Mackay, the miss, started every game of his Wake Forest career, which could end today, and will if they don't win. Jamie Dixon thought there was a turnover there.
His quickness is excellent.
Jamie can move along that sideline with the best, but he's not afraid to share his opinion with the officials. Which doesn't really separate him from most of his colleagues. Kavanaugh tries another 3. Patterson wants to run. Great effort by Kavanaugh, but he couldn't save it. Or did he? Jamie Lucky has a foul call as the ball went out of bounds. And it's on Lamar Patterson. His first. Jamie Dixon He can move. His team's on the move.
Down in a stance. Get down in a stance.
Pittsburgh leads Wake Forest by 10, 7.5 to go till halftime in this second round ACC tournament game in Greensboro. Let's go inside the play.
I mentioned Pitt's alignment. With this ball screen, they make two play one. Two are playing the ball. Then they reverse it. And then they've got one having to play two. One guy's got to make a decision. With the good ball movement, they wind up getting an open shot. That's an alignment where you screen the zone and then you essentially distort it or overload it on the other side. You always want to penetrate a zone, make two play one, and then when you kick it out, oftentimes if you do it right, you're going to have one having to play two. That's the best way to attack a zone, and Pittsburgh does a really good job of attacking zone defenses, especially this Wake Forest zone. They played a 1-2-2, they played some 2-3, and Pittsburgh has gotten good shot after good shot against them.
These two teams played once in the regular season. It was at Pittsburgh on January 11th, a 15-point win for the Pitt Panthers, 80-65. That's the only time they've ever played in basketball prior to today. Mackay still scuffling, and Zana the rebound in traffic.
Pittsburgh really did a good job defensively. Wake Forest was trying to go high-low, and Pitt wouldn't let him catch it. Wouldn't let the high post man get the ball. They just totally blew that up. And they don't take away every pass, but they'll take away the important ones. They take away the ones they want to take away.
No can do on the three for James Robinson. Miller McIntyre attacked very quickly in transition to get Wake Forest with an 8.
It's one thing to see a guy that's got really good speed. When you've got really good speed with the ball, that was incredible.
Artis. Zana had inside position and was fouled from behind by Travis Mackay.
One of the great things about having a point guard that goes down and rebounds is he can start the break without having an outlet. That means you have a quicker break. And Cody Miller McIntyre, a lot of guards, a lot of point guards will just stay out on the perimeter and let other guys rebound. But McIntyre went down and grabbed that rebound himself, and that's what got him a basket.
He has scored the last 6 points for Wake Forest.
A little hard on guards there. Guards not rebounding and all that stuff. A little lay off. The big guy in me is coming out.
You played in 4 of these ACC tournaments.
I did. Just a recruiting mistake by Mike Krzyzewski.
Lamar Patterson bangs home the 3.
He's such a good player. I'm not sure he does anything great, but he does everything well.
Adalamoto, nicely done. The long 2 for Arno William Adalamoto, sophomore, originally from Cameroon, came to this country when he was 15 years old, went to high school in Virginia, played at Episcopal High School for former Wake Forest player Jim Fitzpatrick.
I like him. He's a good player. Really active, athletic. I wish his name were Joe Smith, but he's really good. Good pass. How about that?
Zana scores inside.
When he gets a ball screen, Lamar Patterson, he doesn't just blast off it. He waits for the defense to make a mistake. And he's got such good vision. He'll find that slip guy, and he delivers the ball in a catchable way.
Well, not only did you play, Jay, in this event, we don't want to make you blush, but nothing really makes you blush. There you are.
Look at those hops.
What do you remember? That was here in Greensboro. I believe 2 of your 4 were here, and a couple of the Omni.
Yeah, the Omni, which doesn't exist anymore. That's how old I am. The buildings don't exist.
In the 85 semifinals against Georgia Tech, you had 21 points and 9 rebounds. And how come you were only second team all tournament after a performance like that?
Just bias voting, Duke haters.
You played on a championship team in this tournament in 1986.
Yes, like I was very fortunate to be on a really good team. I was lucky to play with those guys. But the you know, they always show, like at ESPN, like when you're talking, they put a little bubble up that has your accomplishments, the bio, and for Jay Williams, they've got National Player of the Year, and for Lynn Omar, All-American, grabbed 1,000 rebounds. They never put up second team All-ACC tournament for me.
What do they put up? I mean, it's hard to find accomplishments. I can't imagine if that didn't make it, what did? Mows his lawn well. Shot out of the corner would not go, but Devin Thomas there to follow up the miss by Aaron Roundtree. Officials conferring, could be a foul, could be a walk. Wake Forest bench wants the walk, but apparently that was caused by the foul. And the foul will prevail. It's on Adalamoto, his first.
Well, Lamar Patterson, they say he's got an old man's game. That's a compliment. He just knows how to play.
Coming up on the Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report, we'll look back at a great buzzer beater in the Big East. Seton Hall and Villanova, the number 1 seed, goes packing. Plus, look back in the ACC as well. Florida State in their battle against Maryland. And we'll also tell you about this one. It should be done by then, but Missouri and Texas A&M in overtime right now. If you want to see this, go over to Watch ESPN app, and they'll let you know exactly how it winds up in overtime. Guys, back to you.
All right, John, thank you. Second game of the day here. Pittsburgh leading Wake Forest by 11. Florida State won at the buzzer in the first game today against Maryland. Lamar Patterson the miss for Pittsburgh. Under 4 minutes to go in the half. Cody Miller-McIntyre, another nice drive and finish.
Well, he gets up ahead of steam in transition. He is tough to stop. And it wasn't like Pittsburgh wasn't getting back to try to knock that ball away. They just couldn't.
He's just about single-handedly keeping Wake Forest within range. Josh Newkirk bounced it off for Mel Artis.
Wake Forest back to man on that. Nice pass.
Forced underneath and last touched by Devin Thomas, although he doesn't think so. Aaron Roundtree tried to jam it under there. Thomas was surrounded.
It might have been better off just pulling the trigger on that shot. Williams made the extra pass. He was wide open in the corner. And when you're open, take a shot.
3 minutes to go, first half. Sean McDonough, Jay Billis at Greensboro Coliseum will host this tournament next year. Then in 2016, they're off to the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. And the site's to be determined 2017 and beyond. Lamar Patterson scores.
Patterson came off that curl, and Wake Forest challenged it, but Patterson had second effort and Wake Forest didn't.
Williams protecting the ball, and then he scored. Boy, was that nice. He looked like a running back going through the hole with 2 hands over the ball, and then when he got within range of the bucket, threw it up and in.
He's really a good player, isn't he?
He is very impressive. Talib Zana from Cameron Wright.
Zana's very active on both ends of the floor. In this game, he's already got 3 steals, blocked a couple of shots, has run the court, moves his feet on defense.
Zana has 10 points. He's their second leading scorer for the year at 12.5, behind only Lamar Patterson. Adalamoto a little short. Another rebound for Talib Zana.
Zana was right there to challenge Adalamoto and make him shoot over the top.
Baseline jumper. Didn't fall for Michael Young, the freshman.
That was 1-on-5 right there. Pittsburgh doing a good job of getting back.
Miller-McIntyre just a heave. Josh Newkirk the other way. Underneath, Zana's all alone.
But it's like clockwork, Sean. You take a bad shot, you give up a layup. And that was a bad shot by Cody Miller-McIntyre. He's done some really good things, but that was a bad one. Went 1-on-5 and wind up giving a layup as a result.
And you hope it was fatigue, Jay, on the part of Wake Forest getting back, if the effort there was horrendous.
Well, they were out of balance. I mean, just took a really bad shot. Zana winds up outrunning Devin Thomas. He just was way out ahead of him.
They're all just jogging back. 13-point lead for Jamie Dixon and the Pitt Panthers. 1 game complete at the Big Ten tournament. They began play today. Illinois, which really came on late in the year, Jay, with a win over Indiana. Indiana not in the field of 68, all likelihood.
No, I don't think Indiana's going to make it. Nebraska, I think, is in. I mean, I know they're on the bubble according to Joe Lunardi, but I think they're going to make it. I think Wisconsin, Duke, they're still alive. Virginia for a #1 seed. So a lot's going to be determined by the Big Ten tournament and the ACC tournament as to this #1 seed. Now that Villanova's lost, I think that probably takes Villanova out of it. They've only got 4 losses on the year, but losing so early in the tournament, you don't see a lot of #1 seeds that go out this early.
Kavanaugh, he and Young were bumping for a while, and finally Les Jones says that's enough of that. The foul will be on Michael Young. 2 personals on Young. Grew up in the Pittsburgh area watching Pitt hoops. Played at St. Benedict's in New Jersey. Terrific high school program. He was a teammate there, Jamel Artis, who was his teammate at Pitt now as well.
And that play before, Kavanaugh did a really nice job there. He set a little flex screen, and there was going to be a screen for the screener action. He just ducked in hard and was really physical. He's known more as a shooter, but he really used his body well there and did a nice job.
Josh Newkirk's foul, his first. It puts Pittsburgh over the limit. The front end of the 1-and-1 pops out for Karan Williams. He had a great game yesterday, Jay, and after the game, Karan talked about how he's annoyed that he missed a free throw. Aaron Roundtree called for the foul, his first and the 5th against Wake. Pittsburgh has led throughout this first half. And this is their largest lead, 13 points.
Wake Forest been much more successful in this game playing man-to-man.
Zana. Chance for the old-fashioned 3-point play for the seniors originally from Nigeria. Went to high school in this country at Bishop McNamara in Maryland.
I'm not sure there's a better ball screen passer that's not a point guard in the country than Lamar Patterson. Again, he doesn't blast off this thing. A little bit slow getting over by Kavanaugh, but just an excellent screen roll and a terrific pocket pass by Lamar Patterson.
On a 64% from the line for the year. What a first half. 15 and 8, 3 assists, a 7-0 run for Pitt. Under a half minute to go. Shot clock off. See if Wake Forest runs it down for the final shot of the half.
And Devin Thomas really quiet in this first half for Wake Forest. Talib Zana and Pittsburgh's half-court defense taking him totally out of the game.
Boy, it looked like Zana gave Miller McIntyre a pretty good bump. Thomas, nice execution of their offense by Wake Forest. And Jamie Dixon a timeout. Try to set something up with a second and a half to go in the first half. Band is here. The Panthers 31 years in the Big East. Before moving on to this, the ACC. A lot of those Pitt fans will watch, perhaps some of them nostalgically. Sunday night, 30 for 30, the Requiem for the Big East. Recap the colorful history of the Big East Conference, presented by Infinity. Sunday night at 9 on ESPN, also live on Watch ESPN. Patterson didn't get it off. I don't think he did anyway.
He did not. Really good first half for Pittsburgh. Defensively, Talib Zana was outstanding, and they've got a big halftime lead.
Zana and Patterson combining for 25 of the 39 Pittsburgh points. 39-25 at the half. Now the Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report. John Saunders, Jay Williams, and Digger Phelps.
All right, Sean, thanks a lot. You've got one running away, but it's just the first half here on the Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report. This one in the SEC. Texas A&M and Missouri, 2 former teams out of the Big 12. Alex Caruso. Caruso steals the ball. Caruso steals the ball. They get the lay-in, and that ties the game at 77 apiece. So this is the end of overtime. That shot gets stuffed. Caruso involved yet again, and they are headed on to their second overtime. You can see this game on Watch ESPN. Texas A&M and Missouri playing a little extra. As you can see, Texas A&M at 17-14. They need to run their way to the tournament championship to get into that field of 68. Maryland facing Leonard Hamilton and Florida State. Terps in transition. Nick Faust with a great pass to Jack Lehman. Looked like you used to do it, Jay Will.
A great no-look pass, and Jack Lehman, one of those underrated 3-4s in the ACC. Extremely athletic and loves to shoot the three, but also can finish at the rim.
This one looked like it might be headed to overtime as well, but Bojanowski.
What a pass by White. What a finish by Bojanowski.
You've been screaming his name all day long. And
well, he's only about 220 pounds, but he finished like he was 250 right there.
0.4 of a second left in the game, and so Florida State pulls off the win. Florida State, tournament hopes with that win?
Staying alive. I mean, staying alive. They're in the conversation. I know Joe Lunardi has them on the first 4 out, I think, but I still disagree with him in that resume. I think they belong in before St. Joe's belongs in, but
absolutely.
They're still staying in that conversation with the win.
But who do they have next? Virginia.
Yeah, well, Virginia. That's the number one seed.
I'll tell you this. They will not lose 2 in a row. After the way they lost at Maryland, you watch how they come back and reunite and come together and play defense at that end, and Joe Harris and company get it done. They're not going to lose it.
There's a lot of people who think that Virginia is a suspect number 1 seed out of the ACC.
If they win the ACC.
No, I'm saying suspect that they're not as good as their record indicates. Despite the fact they put that record in the ACC, people point to the schedule.
Well, John, I said this yesterday. They are the most underappreciated ACC champion I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And nobody gives them credit. Now, people always say they didn't play at North Carolina, they didn't play at Syracuse, but they played the games, as a coach would say, on their schedule. They won, and they are the top defensive team in the country in defensive scoring.
When they lost by 35 to Tennessee, and then Joe Harris went over to
Tony
Coach
Bennett's
house and had a little team meeting between those two. And he went back to all the players, especially the point guard, London Prentice. You are running this team offensively and defensively. That was the turning point, because once they got that confidence going, yes, they had the winning streak snapped at Maryland. But more importantly, this team has a lot of confidence at both ends of the floor. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond now with the ACC tournament, knowing they got Florida State next. But I'm telling you this right now, I'll be shocked. And as good as Leonard Hamilton teams is, and they rebound, they're big, and they're physical, I'll be shocked if Virginia loses 2 in a row going into the big dance.
They don't get as much credit as they deserve, and it's because they're not in the triangle.
Fair point.
Charlottesville makes it different. All right, stick around. We'll come back. We'll take a look at one number 1 seed who struggled a bit today.
Come back to the Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report.
John Saunders alongside of Jay Williams and Digger Phelps. Villanova, #1 seed in the Big East tournament. Just another trip for them into Madison Square Garden. Ryan Arcidiacono, who's had a terrific year. The sophomore comes up with a steal. And Nova's down just 7. They had trailed big in this one, double digits. Javon Pinkston, then, the big guy down low, is unstoppable, Jay.
An undersized power forward can beat you on the outside and inside, but taking advantage. And then Darren Hilliard finishing strong in transition.
But the little point guard makes things go. Look at the steal there, Arcidiacono. Hilliard then to Hart in transition. And it looks like Villanova's going to come back, Digger.
Yeah, they are. But the thing is, when you look at Seton Hall, they had chances to blow this game, but they come back, and here he is, hitting that big three in the corner.
Jaron Cena, and Seton Hall's up 62-61. But then once again,
Go to the hole.
in the paint.
Go to the hole. Hilliard, yes. How much time left?
Dances that one down.
Look at this.
Seconds remaining. And Sterling Gibbs with a step back. Take another look, guys, and take me through it.
How about they use Fuquan Edwin, number 23, as a decoy, bringing him off a double screen, looking for him to finish at the rim. He's not there. Sterling Gibbs with another double-down screen in an isolated situation. I mean, that's how you create space. That is a major, major step back by Sterling Gibbs.
And there's a set play where they all knew where to go and why, and that's why it worked, because they're looking inside. No, the outside shot there with the old step-back dribble, pull back.
Even after that loss, Joe Lunardi still has them as a #1 seed. Are you buying that?
No, well, this is for the time being, and we still have to wait to see who is going to be the winner of the Big Ten tournament, the ACC tournament, and see what Kansas does in their game against Oklahoma State.
As we look at the rest of the Big East bracket, we can tell you that at halftime, Providence has a lead over St. John's. St. John's playing for their tournament of lives, as is Providence.
That shocks me because I think St. John's, they got to come out in the second half and really get more of what they know how to do. Be aggressive, go to the hole, get on the glass, and play that defense like you did in the Garden when you upset Creighton in the Garden.
Xavier and Marquette still to come tonight as well. Of course, Marquette trying to play their end. It's been that way in the Big East this year. Right now, former Big East team with a 14-point lead.
This halftime report is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings, the official hangout for NCAA March Madness. This halftime report is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings, the official hangout for NCAA March Madness.
On the Watch ESPN app, Missouri now pulling away from Texas A&M in double overtime, Jay.
And Jabari Brown, a transfer, one of the top transfers, fouled out. But Missouri looks like they're going to find a way to win this ball game in advance.
Let's take a look at the Big Ten right now. The Ohio State Buckeyes facing Purdue. Purdue, not bad towards the end of the season. And Ohio State up 1 in the first half. Shannon Scott, nice pass to Amir Williams for the slam. Buckeyes up by 3. And then the best defensive player in the game, Aaron Kraft, to Lenzel Smith Jr., knocks down a three-pointer. The Buckeyes pulling away by 5.
One would think before Purdue started playing passing lanes, it was able to capitalize on 9 first-half turnovers by Ohio State.
Smotherman with that steal throws it down, tied it at 36 apiece. And Digger, you think Michigan has a chance for a number 1 seed overall?
I think Michigan or Wisconsin both have a chance for a number 1 seed if they win the Big Ten, because I don't buy into Villanova being in 1 seed in the East, and don't count out Duke if they win the ACC Tournament as a 1 seed.
Well, still a lot of basketball to play between now and Sunday. For Wake Forest, they hope it's a much better second half of trying to control Pitt.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by the 2014 Mazda 3 with seamless connectivity and Subway. Experience the irresistible crunch of the new Fritos Chicken Enchilada Melt, only at Subway. Watching Championship Week, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods.
It's the ACC on ESPN. Second round action of the ACC Tournament. Number 5 seed Pittsburgh leading the 12 seed Wake Forest at the half. 39-25. Sean McDonough and Jay Billis. Pittsburgh playing in its first ever ACC tournament game, and a couple of seniors trying to make sure it's not their last.
They've done a good job. Pittsburgh's done a really good job on the defensive end. They've made it really difficult on Wake Forest, but we're going to show you the offensive part. And Lamar Patterson off a little ball screen and roll. He just sees everything so well. Ready to shoot when the ball arrives. Now from the other side off the penetration by Josh Newkirk. And Talib Zanna had a tremendous first half. 15 points, 8 rebounds, 3 steals. And he runs the floor as well as any big guy. After the rebound, just rim runs straight to the other end, beating his man down the floor, and he does it consistently. He just doesn't do it once in a while. He runs all the time. Block shot, screen and roll, the finish through contact. Zanna put up big numbers, and he doesn't look like he even broke a sweat in that first half.
They matched Wake Forest output as a team, points and field goals made. Wake ball to begin the second half. Cody Miller-McIntyre way short with that shot. Devin Thomas had hung on the rim. Out of bounds. They confer, and it'll be Pittsburgh's ball. Thomas last to touch.
You know, maybe a small thing, Sean, but even on that drive by Cody Miller-McIntyre, Lamar Patterson doesn't foul him. He makes him make a tough shot over him. He got help. Michael Young came over, gave good help, and they forced him to make a tough two. It's just good defense. And then on offense, the ball moves. It doesn't stick in anybody's hands.
And usually the players are moving too. Cameron Wright, long with the left, tipped around and controlled by Devin Thomas. And now Karan Williams.
Well, your point about the players moving too. When you're moving, especially as a big guy, you're a lot harder to block out. It's easier to get an offensive rebound when you're doing it on the move.
Mackay. Well, a very disappointing 2 days. This is not the way he wants to end, but it's been a very solid career at Wake Forest. Michael Young for Pittsburgh, and their lead is 16, matching the largest of the game for the Panthers.
So the transition defense for Wake Forest has not been good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was foul. He reached over the top. He went out on the opposite side. He should have been on the inside of him there, but boy, the transition defense really poor. Devin Thomas not really sprinting back, and Young just able to get all the way to the rim. You can't get much easier than that, and that's just, frankly, it's an effort thing. You just got to get down the floor.
And a few examples of that, and you wonder, as we said, about the energy level after the win yesterday against Notre Dame while Pittsburgh was off. They double Thomas. Just did get it off to Adalamoto, and then he took a little shove from Lamar Patterson. Jeff Bzdelik, fourth year at Wake Forest, could be his final half as head coach. And I think the atmosphere in here, Jay, is sort of indicative of what's going on around Wake Forest. Not a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for the program locally. Matter of fact, there's still billboards in this area that are calling on the administration of Wake Forest to fire Jeff Bzdelik. But here we are, half hour from the Wake Forest campus in Winston-Salem, and the building is quite empty. I mentioned yesterday there's been improvement year to year in the win total, but whether or not it's going to be enough to bring him back for another year is an open question that even he acknowledges.
Well, we all serve at the pleasure of our employers. But I think Jeff Bzdelik is a good basketball coach. I had a chance to watch him. You know, he coached in the NBA. He coached a former teammate of mine, Mark Allery, with the Washington Bullets. And I remember how much respect Mark had for Jeff. And he did a really good job at Air Force, did a good job at Colorado. And I think he has done a good job here of rebuilding things. Now, this program had some issues after they let Dino Gaudio go. And Dino Gaudio had a winning record. He got to the NCAA tournament. I mean, the last time I saw Wake Forest play with Gaudio as head coach, they beat Texas, a game I was fortunate enough to do, and before getting beaten by Kentucky, and he was let go right after that.
And the reason that was given was that they didn't win enough in the postseason. Karan Williams, the basket. The record was dramatically on the winning side for Dino Gaudio. He had 61 wins in 3 seasons, and his final year is 20-11 overall, 9-7. You mentioned one an NCAA tournament game, but that was his only postseason win. It was a surprise to many when he was let go. We talked yesterday about the notion that Jeff Bzdelic had to clean up a mess, and I spoke with Dino Gaudio this morning. He didn't feel that that was a fair characterization, and you could go through a lot of history about players and when they were in the program and when they left and the circumstances, and was it on the previous coach's watch or on Jeff Bzdelic's watch. And it really isn't worth getting into, but some of the departures took place when Jeff Bzdelic was here, and some of them were players who might have originally been recruited by Dino Gaudio, but were re-recruited by Jeff Bzdelic, who wanted them in the program when he first got the job. They kept a couple of Dino Gaudio's assistants, according to Dino, in part to keep some of the recruits and the current players that Bzdelic inherited in the program. So you can get into, as we said, a debate of each individual circumstance. The reality is, at the end of the day, as you said yesterday, it comes down to wins, and barely above 500 in your fourth year ordinarily isn't going to keep you around for the long haul.
These are difficult jobs, and Wake Forest has had a lot of success in the past, and Jeff Bzdelic has had a lot of success in the past. Like we talked about before, I think he's a good coach. I don't approve of coaches having to worry about their jobs after 4 years when they can barely get a class through, especially when they're having to rebuild. However the rebuilding took place, he's having to rebuild.
And there's a small school, 4,600 students, high-level academic institution. Turnover by Miller McIntyre. Patterson the dunk, and a timeout called by Jeff Bzdelic. And again, an example, Miller McIntyre turns the ball over and then barely jogs back. Not that he was going to be able to catch Patterson, but he can try. Championship week filled with moments we love. Today's brought to you by Axe, and there's a moment the Seminoles remember for a long time. Boris Bojanowski, the dunk to give Florida State the win with 0.4 of a second to go in the opener today against Maryland. It's been a season filled with painful losses for the Terps, and it ends with a 2-point defeat at the buzzer. Tonight, Miami and NC State, Georgia Tech and Clemson. Dan Shulman and Sean Farnham will have the action. Then the quarterfinals. The top 4 seeds get into action tomorrow. And you said yesterday, and I agree with you, the top 4 seeds seem to be a cut above the rest of the league. Pittsburgh, a solid 5th place team, but I think they're a step down from those other 4. No basket, offensive foul. Good defense by Zana, who continues to have a beautiful day.
Well, you like the aggressiveness of Devin Thomas. He's been a little quiet in this game relative to what he did against Notre Dame, where he was outstanding. 19 points, had 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Now back to a little bit of zone right there. At least it looks like zone. There's been no movement. Yeah, they're in a 2-3 zone right now.
Second foul on Devin Thomas.
Pittsburgh does a good job of their big guys Xing into the post, and they set a screen on the zone.
Wow. Lamar Patterson as the shot clock expired.
Hard to speed him up. You know, Lamar Patterson's one of those guys, when he goes and plays at the Y when he's like 35, his game isn't going to look that much different. He doesn't.
Thomas called for an illegal screen as he knocked down Patterson.
Patterson's game is so solid. Can't speed him up. He's a good shooter, great passer, does everything well. And right now, Pittsburgh's doing everything well.
ESPN's coverage of the NCAA Men's Division I basketball tournament continues on Sunday with a special Sports Center at 5:30, and then at 7 it's bracketology. Don't miss all the latest news, analysis, panel of experts breaking down the field of 68. Selection Sunday, Sports Center at 5:30, bracketology at 7. Both live on Watch ESPN. Right now, Joe Lunardi still has 5 ACC teams in the field, with Pittsburgh projected as a number 10 seed. We ran into Jim Boeheim when we were out to dinner last night. He's a little salty that Joe Lunardi has them as a 3. Salty's not the word. He would question it, as you have questioned some of Joe's machinations right now, because the lot struggle down the stretch for Syracuse. A lot of it was with Jeremy Grant injured.
Yeah, they lost to Boston College with Grant in the lineup, I think, and then they lost to Georgia Tech with him out, lost to Duke with him not at full strength. A lot depends.
Barely played against Virginia.
Yeah, but what happens in this tournament is going to determine it. You know,
could they go all the way back up to a number when they have 4 losses? They, according, if I'm quoting Coach Boeheim right, 16 wins against the top 100, which is a high number.
Yeah, if they were to win this tournament, I think they would be back up there, because they would to win this tournament. That would mean Virginia and Duke would both have to lose, and who else would be able to slide up there?
It won't be Villanova now. They lost today. Syracuse beat them. Overton the drive, and he's fouled by James Robinson.
But I agree with Digger and Jay Williams that, you know, Michigan and Wisconsin are still in that conversation depending on what they do in the Big Ten tournament. You know, listen, I'm a believer that these tournaments, these postseason tournaments, should be about automatic bids only. I think the committee's work should be done at the end of the regular season. I don't think these tournaments should factor in because it only serves to diminish the regular season accomplishments of mid-major teams. There's one team I think that's going to get jobbed in this whole thing, and that's Green Bay. Green Bay is really good. They earlier in the season beat Virginia, and they lost in their tournament in the Horizon League. They've got Kiefer Sykes, who's an explosive point guard. Alec Brown's a 7-footer that can block shots. He's the defensive player in the year in their league, and he's a guy that knocks down threes. They're really good. And if, you know, with these kind of postseason tournaments that give the big shots more and more top 50, top 25 games, that pushes a team like Green Bay further down the ladder. And I think those decisions should be made at the end of the season, not at the end of these tournaments. You know, if it's really about the automatic bid, then go win the automatic bid.
So if you're Florida State, though, and you come here and win 2 games, beat Virginia tomorrow, but don't win the ACC Tournament championship, that win over Virginia shouldn't help you.
Yes, I am saying that I think the decision should be made based upon the regular season only. And if the committee can make all these decisions in a few days in Indianapolis, they can do it last week. They can get together and do it last week.
Boy, you're a killjoy.
Not a killjoy. It's good
I
stuff.
mean, taking all the fun out of it for Florida State, for example. I mean,
why is that fun?
What's their incentive to play? Well, I guess they could try to win the automatic.
Win the bid. Have your fun during the regular season. Just moves the fun. I want to be fun during the season, not fun at the end.
Advocate for the mid-majors.
You're an advocate for deferring fun. I don't defer my fun. I wanted the regular season.
I'm all in favor of fun if I spent more time with people who were fun.
We're going to get this whole thing straightened out in the next 13:51.
I don't know why they have a committee. I just think they should say, Jay, tell us who to put in, how to do it. It's done.
Finally, you're making sense.
Exactly. There you go. Now we're both having fun. Miller McIntyre short. Held ball. And the arrow will give it to Pittsburgh. .38 to go. Pittsburgh leading by 24. They played very well down the stretch. They had a loss against NC State, but Jamie felt like that win over Clemson really brought them here. They won their regular season finale in overtime at Clemson. See signs of Patterson coming to life, and that has certainly continued. It's been a season of close calls both ways. They have 4 overtime wins, so they could be much more on the wrong side of the bubble if those hadn't gone their way. On the other hand, they had 2 very close games against Syracuse, lost them both. They lost at the wire to Virginia.
I think the thing about Pittsburgh that people will bring up is that they don't play an incredibly challenging non-conference schedule. That's just a scheduling philosophy that Jamie Dixon has. Yeah, he would tell you that no, that, you know, some of these teams are really good, but when they're ranked in the bottom half of Division I, you know, you're not going to get a big bump out of playing them. And you know, they beat Stanford, which was their best non-conference win. They lost in a close game to Cincinnati in the Garden.
1-point game. That was another one of those buzzer beaters.
Yeah, it was a 1-point game, but that 1 point was like 10% of all scoring.
It was 44 to 43.
Neither team could score. I did that game. It was painful, but they don't give themselves a lot of chances in the non-conference. Right now, going into this game, they only had 1 win against a top 50 team, or a team ranked in the top 50 of the BPI, the RPI, and all that stuff.
And their BPI is very strong. 17. Why is it so much better than the RPI?
Well, their metrics are really good. They've won their games by a fair margin, and they haven't lost by a big margin. As you mentioned, all their losses have been close. They've had overtime games, all that stuff. And BPI takes in margin of victory into account, and I think it should. I think the RPI should. I think those are important metrics.
I would give them credit for a good win at Clemson. You know, we had the quality win on the screen, Stanford, but they beat Clemson twice. And I think we've seen that they're a good team. They beat Maryland. Doesn't rank, as you said, because it's not in the top 50.
Yeah.
However, I think when you watch Maryland play, you see plenty of talent out there.
No, they're good, but I think when you draw the line at the top 50, when other teams have those, I mean, I think they can make an argument, well, you know, I'll see your good win over Maryland, I'll give you this one. And they've got a top 50 win. And it's just one of those separating factors that you can use to tell the difference between two teams.
18-1 run for Pittsburgh after that 3 by Josh Newkirk. And the Panthers are going to cruise into tomorrow's quarterfinal. Miles Overton the bucket, and a chance for a 3-point play for Wake Forest. Chris Jones called for his first foul for Pitt.
Pittsburgh would actually be better. Remember, they lost to Ron Johnson early in the year, a guy that could really shoot it, step away. I think he got injured against Wake Forest, if I remember right.
Yeah, he hurt his right knee January 11th. At the time he was their 6th man. He was averaging 9 points per game. Good 3-point shooter. Overton goes out, and the Pitt people would tell you that once he left, it was that much easier for the opponents to pay even more attention to Lamar Patterson. One of the benefits of this huge lead for Jamie Dixon, too, is he can go deep into the bench and really limit the minutes to some of his key players with back-to-back games coming.
Hey, get some minutes for your deeper bench players, and in case they have to be used against North Carolina, they've had some minutes. They're a little more confident.
North Carolina will be playing its first game of this ACC tournament tomorrow. The double bye to the quarterfinals as a top 4 seed. Karan Williams, the bucket, will have a chance for a 3-point play, but his Demon Deacons are being dominated by Pitt.
Digger Phelps in the studio here. Let's look at what Missouri has to do against Texas A&M. Jonathan Williams III misses and gets his own rebound and goes back up strong. Yes, Missouri wins. And when you look at where they are right now, well, they needed this win today. They're still there. They're not out of it. Yes, they have a shot. Let's see what happens in the rest of the day. Back to you, Jay and Sean.
There's Baker had a coup back in their studio, just wiped out everybody else.
John Saunders probably like tied up and gagged in a closet, and Digger did the cut in. That was very good by Digger Phelps.
Quite smooth.
I think I see a new career for him.
Quite smooth.
It just shows how easy being a host is, you know.
Without question. 23-point lead for the Pitt Panthers. Under 12 minutes to go here in Greensboro. Sean McDonough, Jay Billis. Our producer, Bo Garrett, who's quite glum as his SMU Mustangs went down to defeat today. Our director, Jeff Lefty Evers. Artis missed the baseline jumper. Does Denison play basketball? Jeff Evers is a graduate of Denison. I'm sure he's
Denison in Ohio. Of course they play basketball. They're a very fine basketball program.
The Big Red, Jeff tells us.
Big
Still
Red.
waiting for a big check from Jeff to the Alumni Fund, and they'll be waiting a long time.
Big Red, an outstanding team and an excellent chewing gum.
I believe Zana can't catch it. Long pass from Lamar Patterson, who's from a family of passers. Lamar's brother Perry played quarterback at the Harvard of Central New York, Syracuse University back in 2004 to 2007. Was starting quarterback for a while. The timeout on the court. It's our Subway fresh take. Miami still alive. They beat Virginia Tech in a tight one yesterday. One of the oddities of the ACC regular season. Virginia Tech had only 2 wins in the regular season, 2-16. They were both against Miami. The Canes finally beat them yesterday. Wake Forest sent Notre Dame home with a loss in their first ever ACC tournament game. Florida State, a win it absolutely had to have in a thriller, in Virginia will take on those Seminoles tomorrow. So a win that Florida State had to have, and now a chance to have a great resume building win against one of the best teams in the country, Virginia, tomorrow.
Yeah, Virginia coming off a loss. They lost to Maryland, but it's an outstanding basketball team. It's really good defensively. They play that pack line defense. And I was a little surprised. You know, I think Malcolm Brogdon has been their best player this year. I was a little surprised that Brogdon didn't make first team All ACC. Everyone on first team certainly worthy of it. But I thought that Brogdon would have been an excellent choice for it as well. And it brought up a discussion earlier today that with the size of the ACC 15 teams now, do you think it should be more than 5 guys on first team? I don't. Do you?
No.
I don't either. I think it.
How many guys played at a time? 5.
Exactly. But we can pick 5 for first team All-American. We should be able to pick 5 for All ACC team.
I agree. And he made the coach's first team All ACC, by the way. He did not make the media.
Right.
All ACC. KJ McDaniels was on the media first team instead of Brogdon.
And there's another one. 2 first teams. Just have everybody should vote in one poll. It should be one voice coming out of the league.
One out wide. Now you have to stop. If you want to rescue Green Bay, that's fine. But if the media wants to have their poll, they're all conference teams, and the coaches have theirs, what's the harm in that?
Well, why don't you let the players have one then?
Sure, I'm all in favor of that.
Because it's confusing. You want one first team, and Jabari Parker, the freshman from Duke, had a spectacular year, and TJ Warren was player of the year from everybody.
This is the media poll that Jay says should not exist, by the way. Marcus Page and C.J. Fair, and there's McDaniels and not Brogdon. McDaniels does so many things well, both ends of the court for Clemson.
And a worthy choice. They're all worthy of it. It's just a question of who you put on first.
And on the media, by the way, the 2 highest vote getters were Parker and Warren, and they tied for total number of votes. Warren wound up being the conference player of the year. Do you think that was the right pick?
Yeah. I mean, I think you could go any number of ways. You could have gone Marcus Page. You could have gone with Jabari Parker. But TJ Warren had a great year. He had 2 40-point games, multiple 30-point games. He averaged about 24, 25. And they're a team that still has a fair amount of work to do if they're going to get into the NCAA tournament field.
Warren, far and away the leading scorer in the league by more than 5 points per game. He's the only one over 20 points per game. He's at 24.8.
And he also led the league in field goal percentage. He was a very good rebounder for NC State. He did a lot of things and really came back from last year in much better condition. And he can make every shot in the book. He's got a variety of ways that he can score.
First free throw good for Madison Jones, the sophomore from Raleigh. The Ravenscroft School outstanding high school program. It's a teammate there, Brian Kelly, who played at Duke.
He played for Kevin Billerman, outstanding high school coach.
Well, Warren was the player of the year. I know it really should be in just who has had the best season, but when it comes to who's the best player, it's Jabari Parker.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you know that's why everybody votes. Is some people say, well, wait a minute, I don't want to take a player that's not on one of the best teams, and they'll argue, well, if you can't get your team to the NCAA tournament, should you really be player of the year? And then somebody, well, last year Eric Green was he was player of the year from Virginia Tech. And they didn't win it. What's that?
And they finished
last.
League,
yeah. So you know, whatever your standard is, your criteria is vote. My only point on the coaches versus the media, I'm not against either poll. It's great, but just put them together and have one first team and speak with one voice as a league.
Why?
Because I like it better that way. Because then you don't have to qualify anything. You can just say all ACC. You don't have to say in the media poll, in the coaches poll, in the players poll. And why don't the players have it? The players need one. Another great steal by
Lamar Patterson. Fouled from behind. I know with a 19-point lead, there's still the thought that Wake Forest could make a game of it, but an example why you take good players out of the game with a big lead, because that easily could have been injury time for Lamar Patterson.
Well, another thing it's an example of, Sean, is I said this earlier in the season when I think it was Nate Britt that was fouled in a game with North Carolina earlier. When you're ahead of the pack and you're going off of 1 foot, there are times you need to go in off of 2 feet. One, so you can complete the play through contact, but the other so you can protect yourself. Because when you go off of 1 foot and kind of expose yourself to a foul, you have a hard time with body control and being able to take a hit. You know, you're going to hit the deck. And it's not a question of whether it's a regular foul or flagrant foul or all this stuff. Even if it's a flagrant foul, you're the one in the wood that can get injured. So you have to protect yourself.
It stops a 10-0 run for Wake. 9 minutes to go. 21-point lead for Pitt. Cody Miller McIntyre. I would not follow Lamar Patterson hard for a lot of reasons, but one of them is he has a pet alligator. So not only could he perhaps come after you, but he could also sick Pharaoh. His girlfriend gave him an alligator for Christmas. What would you like for Christmas, honey? I think I'd really like a pet alligator.
And he keeps that in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I believe he does.
I wonder if anybody playing for Florida has a panther. Why would you have a gator in Pittsburgh? What would he or she do?
I'm not sure that part of the story. I'm not sure if they keep the alligator. It's small, but they grow, don't they?
I would assume.
Newkirk. I'm very excited. In 12 years, I finally asked you a question you did not have an answer for, right or wrong.
I was totally unprepared for reptile
for gator
questions.
talk. They tend to go.
I hadn't done all my reptile research.
Devin Thomas bumped down to the ground.
Let's go to our sideline reporter, Marlon Perkins.
Yes. I don't think Marlon's with us any longer.
Well, good. He won't talk as long. We'll get back to our discussion about having the coaches poll and the players poll. Tony Bennett was coach of the year, right? Was there a media coach of the year?
So now you're just trying to prove it.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm not. They should have a players coach of the year. The players should get to vote on the coaches.
Devin Thomas.
Once again, the players totally cut out of it.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't even give them a vote.
Here comes the soapbox.
No, it's the high horse.
Well, that also. I'm pretty sure Tony Bennett won whatever ACC Coach of the Year awards there are.
And
because he was
so.
deserving.
Had a great year.
Timeout. Just in the nick of time.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Dick's Sporting Goods. Every season starts at Dick's. And Chevrolet. Find new roads.
Digger Phelps in the studio. Let's get an update on what's going on with this Kansas. Perry Ellis inside, up and under. Yes. Kansas taking care of business, up 3 against Okie State in St. John's. Wow. They needed this to stay alive, but Providence making that statement. And Louisville, Rutgers. Okay, Rutgers, you're going to enjoy the Big Ten next year. Back to you.
Digger Phelps, National Sportscaster of the Year.
That was awesome.
Did that score really say 58-16?
It did.
I feel better about this.
It did.
64-43, under 8 minutes to go. Championship week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. The ACC Tournament. So much history and tradition. And the new chapter starting this week with the addition of the former Big East schools, including Jamie Dixon's Pitt Panthers. If there's any question about their status, an eye toward the NCAA tournament, they've removed any question marks.
Well, there are a lot of questions on the minds of basketball fans. You know, you've got the #1 seed, you got who's in, who's out, and then where is John Saunders? Perhaps the most important question.
I think you're right. He's been taken hostage by Digger Phelps' family. But Digger has been very impressive in both of those updates. My suspicion would be he should stop now while he's ahead, but you never know. Pressure coming from the Demon Deacons. Under 8 minutes to go, 20-point game. And they break through the pressure and will look to run some clock now. James Robinson, talented point guard of DeMatha. Looked like a walk by Artis.
Robinson doesn't score much, but a really good playmaking guard, runs the team, and Patterson just putting up numbers. He had 30 against Clemson. They really rely on him for a lot of offense, and he delivers. It's not just the points he scores, Sean, it's the points he's responsible for.
Wake turned it over. Robinson the other way. Ooh, Patterson thought about a quick three and passed it up. He has 24 points. I guess when Jamie Dixon told us the other night he thinks Patterson's hand and wrist is sufficiently covered. He's back on track. He was right on the money with that observation. Zana scores inside. And we talked a couple of times the last 2 days about Jeff Bzdelik's status. Will he be back for another year? Ooh. Whistle before that tip in, and it's going against Wake Forest. And I would imagine Ron Wellman's been the AD there a long time. Jay, he's the chair of the basketball committee as well. I would have to think by now he's made his mind up one way or the other if Jeff's going to come back. But if it was something that was still up for debate, this probably doesn't help. When you're down by 25 and it's been a pretty ugly game almost from the start. They had some highlights, as we mentioned. In-state home wins over all 3 of them. Carolina, the Wolfpack, and Duke. First time they've completed that trifecta since 2009. Devin Thomas has just fouled out, so his season is almost certainly over.
He's had a really good year. 4th leading rebounder in the ACC. An emotional player, throws everything into the game. He really struggled in this one against a defense that was geared to stop him and Karan Williams.
He's a sophomore, so he'll be back in all likelihood anyway. 8 points and 6 rebounds today. Jeff Bzdelik loves him. Talked the other day about it, how banged up he is because he gives you everything that he has, always diving on the floor. Compared to Dave Cowens, the former Celtic and Florida State great. Artis the free throws. He's out of Notre Dame Prep up in Massachusetts. That's a school that's been good to Pittsburgh over the years. Steven Adams now in the NBA. Carl Krauser, terrific guard from years ago.
Carl Krauser, one of the toughest guards to ever play at Pittsburgh and ever play in the Big East. He's a boxer. Remember that?
I do not. Then again, I don't really recall lunch. Shot from close range missed by Andre Washington, and it goes out of bounds to Pittsburgh. Travis Mackay's career about to end. What a career it's been.
A 4-year starter at Wake Forest, started every game, led Wake Forest in scoring and rebounding as a freshman. Don't see that very often at any year.
He's going to be just the 9th player in the history of the ACC to start every game of his career and never miss one. Today is his 127th straight start. And also ties the record for most career starts at Wake Forest. Not necessarily consecutive, but Tim Duncan, who turned out to have a pretty good NBA career.
Yeah, Tim's done all right for himself.
Still going strong for the San Antonio Spurs.
You look at a guy like Tim Duncan, stayed 4 years in college, could have been the #1 pick any year he wanted to come out. And if a young player like Joel Embiid of Kansas is looking at people who say, hey, you know, he's going to be the top pick, he has to come out. When you're the real thing, and I happen to think Embiid is the real thing, you don't have to do anything. Do anything you want. Tim Duncan benefited from being in school. It was a choice that he made. I don't think he would have been wrong to come out if that's what he wanted to do, but I don't think he's looking back now wondering, geez, how much money would I have if I come out after my sophomore year?
Yeah, we're not going to have a benefit dinner for Tim anytime soon. Derek Randall follows up the miss with a dunk. The junior from Brooklyn, as we mentioned earlier, transferred in from Rutgers, where he played 2 seasons.
He transferred after Mike Rice was fired. Interestingly enough, Mike Rice was an assistant to Jamie Dixon.
Under 5 minutes to go now. Pittsburgh's going to advance to take on North Carolina in the quarterfinals. It'll be the second game of the day tomorrow. They played at North Carolina February 15th. It was a good game, a 4-point win for the Tar Heels. It's another one of those games against a highly ranked opponent that Pitt had a chance to win and didn't. And Steve Robinson, Hubert Davis of the Tar Heel coaching staff. They have to be impressed by what they've seen from tomorrow's opponent, because Pittsburgh has been rock solid at both ends of the court.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is going to want to slow down the transition of North Carolina, a team that really likes to get out and run. And Marcus Page has had a spectacular year. The lefty sophomore has been as good really as any guard, not only in the ACC but in the country. First team All ACC.
On all of the teams.
Every team. Who could leave him off? But he's been great. And North Carolina showed a lot of resilience, I thought. They could have packed their 10 up after they got off to that 1-4 start and ripped off, I think it was 13 straight, wasn't it, before they lost to Duke?
And I think that's another one of the best coaching jobs in the league this year. Tony Bennett was a pretty obvious pick given what his team accomplished. And Jim Boeheim, for a while he had the #1 team in the country, did his usual outstanding job. But Roy Williams, when we first saw them when they lost on Big Monday early in the conference year to Virginia, they looked like a bad team that was going nowhere fast.
And they've really kept after it, and the team got better and better. They were doing the little things that they weren't doing earlier and sustaining effort through possessions on both ends of the floor.
Bad team is probably a little strong. They didn't look like a good team.
No, they did look like a bad team. They were not a good team at that time. I mean, they started off 1-4. And if they had continued to do the things that they were doing to be 1-4, I think they would have been characterized as a bad team. They had good parts, but I don't think anybody would argue with the fact that this is not a vintage North Carolina team. It doesn't shoot the ball particularly well from the perimeter. And Roy Williams expected to have Reggie Bullock, and he expected to have P.J. Hairston. And you put those two guys in the lineup, and you're talking about an elite team.
Beautiful execution, and then Randall missed the dunk. couldn't have been easier. When you're ahead by this much, you can laugh about it, I guess.
Tigger Phelps and John Saunders in the studio. Got a little update here with Purdue and Ohio State. John?
Well, Tigger, I really appreciate you letting me get in here. And Purdue with a chance here to tie or take the lead.
Nope.
They turn the ball over. The Ohio State Buckeyes hold on in the Big Ten. Purdue almost pulling off the upset. There's 5 seconds left. Ohio State going to the free throw line. It looks like they will pull out the victory.
And Kansas making sure that without Joe Embiid, John, they're taking care of Oklahoma State. Back to you.
The guy saying he let me go.
Please, he's released.
I think John only appeared because his family was worried about his whereabouts.
At least in John's contribution, we actually got some analysis.
Must be nice for Digger to work with a real pro.
A real pro, yes. Wouldn't you like to foul away from the ball? Now, what about Oklahoma State? You know, they had that big dip in the middle of the year, the 7-game losing streak. Have they done enough, even if they lose to Kansas today?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I think they're in. They went 8-10 in the league, but still, they had a lot of quality wins during the year. They finished strong once they got Marcus Smart back. You know, the win they had over Kansas, and they beat Kansas State, and really had Iowa State beat at Iowa State. I mean, they had 2 great games with Iowa State, multiple overtimes. But yeah, I think they're in.
Adalamoto called for the foul. Bodies crashing to the floor. 2 fouls on Adalamoto. So Derek Randall goes to the line to shoot 2. Chance to play more minutes than usual with this game on the lopsided side. Randall gets about 9 minutes a game, averages 2 points per game. One-handed rebound by Mackay, who still has not scored in what is going to be the last game of his career. 0 for 6 from the floor.
Also quiet against Notre Dame.
They had 4 points. The flush by Andre Washington, the 7-footer out of Hargrave Military Academy, where he was a teammate of his teammate now Wake, Cody Miller-McIntyre. Montrezl Harrell also played at Hargrave, now starring
This right now, the folks at Wake Forest, because their team was having a difficult time with Pitt, so we have lost some power there. We'll get you out there as soon as we can. But Kansas is facing Oklahoma State, and Kansas right now with an 8-point lead with just under 9 minutes to go, Digger. Interesting because Oklahoma State has split with Kansas this year, and the Jayhawks playing without Joel Embiid.
Well, the thing that impresses me about Kansas is their defense, because when you look at Brown, Smart, and Forte, they are 8 for 25, and that's the difference. Is Kansas defense shutting down that perimeter guard, which we talked about, which is something they got to do, but they're hanging around, not going away, and so with 8:16 to go, this game isn't over, but credit Kansas for the